Okay, everyone. So welcome to the second session of MKTG 403 Electronic Marketing Essentials. My name is Dr. Sheena Boateng, and I'll be your facilitator for this course. Now, in this session, there are two main learning outcomes we hope to achieve. The first one is to be able to understand what we mean when we talk about a situation analysis, as well as environmental scanning when it comes to electronic marketing. And then secondly, you should be able to, at the end of this session, explain the components of the digital marketing environment, specifically in relation to the micro environment, which is also referred to as the operating environment, and then the macro environment, which is referred to as the remote environment. As we go along, in case you have anything you want to ask or anything you need clarification on, kindly just raise your hand and I'll give you the opportunity to do so. All right. So first, let's talk about the online marketplace. What is the online marketplace? The online marketplace is basically an environment where buyers and sellers are brought together to transact in the online setting. So the online marketplace that an organization competes in, we can say, is complex and dynamic. Why? This is because the online marketplace in itself, being that the internet is the main basis for this platform, introduces a level of complexity and dynamism, in that the internet technology that we know today is not the same as the internet technology that we knew from when it was instituted back in 1995. So much has changed, and that is because of the fact that the internet has the capability to evolve. And over the years, the internet has evolved and continues to evolve. And this constant evolution makes it a very complex platform, in that because of the evolution that it is going through and the myriad possibilities that come with each evolution, we realize that the possibilities for businesses, especially electronic marketers such as ourselves, are limitless, given the nature of the technology and the kinds of things that we can use it to do. So in that regard, we talk about the fact that the online marketplace is complex. And therefore, anything that is complex, we need to be able to take our time to break down and understand properly, to be able to know how best we can utilize this in our business. At the same time, we can also talk about the fact that the online marketplace is dynamic. Dynamic in the sense that because we have identified that the internet has evolved and continues to evolve, it introduces a sense of dynamism, such that change is constant when it comes to the internet. So there is no way that you can expect to do business the same way consistently over an extended period of time. Because the moment things change with regards to technology and how the platform is designed and set up, you also have to change your strategy to be able to adapt to the new normal that has been introduced as a result of whatever change has taken place in the internet at that particular point in time. Bearing this in mind, we are saying that firms need to carefully analyze the market context, particularly online, in which they operate, to be able to identify opportunities or threats, if you may, strengths and weaknesses, and then be able to plan for them so that they can be able to compete effectively. Now, the process of going through this analysis, of looking at what opportunities exist, what threats there are, what strengths or weaknesses may prevail, is referred to as a situation analysis. So what is a situation analysis? A situation analysis is basically the collection and review of information about an organization's external environment, as well as their internal resources and processes, in order to be able to refine their strategy to best adapt to these conditions, both internally and externally. Now, I put this question to the class. When we talk about a SWOT analysis, there are certain dimensions of a SWOT analysis. Who can tell us these dimensions?
Strength.
Please, if you want to talk, kindly raise your hand. I'll give you the opportunity, and then you can do so. Lauren.
The company's internal strengths and weaknesses and external opportunities and threats.
Good. So that means that the company is not looking just within in terms of determining their situation. They are also looking without. Because even though they have internal strengths and weaknesses that they can largely control and do something about, There are also external opportunities and threats that are beyond their control that they cannot do much about. So these are the things that they assess in a situation analysis. Now, the whole idea of performing this situation analysis is to make sure that they arrive by valuable information that will inform them on how to go about handling these strengths and weaknesses, as well as opportunities and threats that they identify. Now, the key thing that we need to note about the situation analysis here is the fact that you need to be able to gain access to this information that we are talking about in a timely manner. And this information cannot just be any kind of information. It has to be information that is of a good quality and is adequate. Because if you receive information in part, there's no way you can be able to have a good enough view of the situation to be able to know which course of action will be most appropriate to address it. Likewise, if the information is of poor quality, when you rely on it in decision making, you are setting yourself up for trouble, because this information that you have now is not of the best standard. And therefore, if you rely on it to make decisions, it is likely that the decisions you are making will not be efficient or effective enough for the organization to achieve its objective. Therefore, when it comes to the situation analysis, the main thing I want you to take away from this discussion is that you need to have access to quality and adequate information in a timely manner to be able to make decisions. So let me put this scenario to the class. Assuming you are a firm and you're dealing in a particular product, say you deal in laptops, and you sell the laptops mainly to students. And then you hear in the grapevine that there's a company that is coming to Ghana to set up to distribute laptops mainly to students as well. Only for them, there's a catch. They are going to give the laptops to the students on credit. And they are going to do so through their institutions, by getting the institutions to partner with them to offer laptops to every student in their school at a discounted price. Now, how will you be able to benefit from this information? Will you be able to benefit from it if you hear it in advance? Or you'll be able to benefit from it once the company has already set up in Ghana and has started operation? Which is most expedient for you to be able to benefit from this kind of information? Before they set up in Ghana or when they have set up in Ghana?
Before they set up.
Emanuela, your hand is up. Okay, your hand is down. Lauren, your hand is up again. Or is the old one? Okay, Hannah.
Before they set up.
Before they set up, good. Why before they set up? Hannah, explain. Why do you believe before they set up is the best time for them to gain access to that information?
So that my company can plan and take a course of action before that company does anything that would, make us run at a loss.
Good. So that is the importance of the timeliness of the information and its adequacy and quality when it comes to the situation analysis. You need it to be in this particular form, being a quality form, an adequate form, and a timely form for you to be able to rely on it to make good decisions, to ensure that you are not caught unawares when this new competitor comes in. That being said, a situation analysis is not a one-off thing. It's not a one-time activity that the firm engages in and stops. The situation analysis has to be done in a manner that will make sure that this information is always available to you in the form that we have talked about, being quality, adequate, and timely. And for those purposes, the firm needs to engage in what we refer to as a continuous monitoring of their environment, both the micro and the macro environment. So this continuous monitoring of the micro and macro environment is what we refer to as environmental scanning. Now, this environmental scanning refers to the continuous situation analysis that is run by the organization to ensure that they consistently have information about what is happening in their environment and how they will be able to address the issues that are coming up before they are taken unawares. So now that we have talked about environmental scanning, we know that this environmental scanning must happen in both the micro and macro environment. So in the subsequent portion of our discussion, we are going to look deeper at the micro and macro environment and what happens in both environments as it relates to electronic marketing. Now, when we talk about the e-marketing environment, also referred to as the digital marketing environment, we can talk about the micro environment, which is also referred to as the operating environment, and then the macro environment, which is referred to as the remote environment. So we're going to take them one after the other, and we are going to delve into the components of each of them. So this model is from our recommended text, the main recommended text, which is Shafi and Ellis Shadwick, Digital Marketing. And here they are talking about the fact that the organization exists within the confines of the microenvironment. The microenvironment, according to them, is made up of 4 main actors whose actions influence and are influenced by the organization. And in terms of these actors, Shafi and Ellis Shadwick identify 4 of them as suppliers, competitors, intermediaries, and customers. Now, of these 4, customers are a key aspect. And for that matter, we have a whole lecture dedicated to customers, which is going to break down their activities on the online medium and how e-marketers can best strategize to keep them satisfied. So for the purposes of this discussion, when talking about the microenvironment, we'll be focusing specifically on suppliers, competitors, and intermediaries. So in the microenvironments, these actors interact with the organization, and their activities together determine the situation or conditions within the microenvironment that the firm has to contend with in order to market its products and services to customers. Now, what happens within the microenvironment is somewhat within the control of the organization, such that they, to some degree, have some influence on what takes place within this environment, as well as what happens to the actors that play in this environment. However, the microenvironment in itself exists within the confines of what we refer to as the macro environment. And this macro environment, as we can see, is the larger sphere, the larger square, right, beyond the microenvironment section. That is the blue section. Can we all see it?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Good. Now, this macro environment has factors that interact all the time, creating certain opportunities and threats that may affect the organization. Now, the catch here is that between the macro and micro environment, the firm can, to some extent, control what goes on in the micro environment. However, in the macro environments, the firm is virtually a sitting duck because they do not control what happens in the macro environment. The best they can do is to react to what happens in the macro environment to ensure that if it is positive, they can take advantage of it. And if it is negative, they can take the necessary measures to protect themselves against its negative effects. So when we talk about the macro environment, like we have established, it is made up of those 4 players we talked about: the customers, the suppliers, the competitors, and the intermediaries who shape the immediate trading environment of the organization. And e-marketers need to be able to understand and interpret the behavior of these actors or players that we have just talked about, to be able to know how best to adapt their strategies to the behavior of these players, which will then help them to develop an efficient and effective e-marketing strategy that actually works. So moving on, remember I mentioned the fact that customers are perhaps one of the most influential actors in this group. And because of that, we have a whole lecture dedicated to them. So we are going to focus specifically on the competitors, the intermediaries, and the suppliers, right? So let's take them one after the other and delve into their actions and how they affect the e-marketer. Now let's talk about the microenvironment. The microenvironment is made up of competitors, intermediaries, What did we say? Competitors, intermediaries. What are the other two? What are the other two?
Suppliers and customers.
And customers.
Good. So we'll discuss competitors first. And here we are saying competitors are basically firms within the market that sell products or services that are close substitutes, if not exact substitutes, for the products of the firm or for the product of the e-marketer. Which means that these people can have products and services that can easily be used by customers to replace what you are offering and selling on the market, which makes them somewhat of a threat to your business. Now, the reason why competitors in the micro environment are a pivotal issue, especially when it comes to the online medium, is because of the fact that the information technology that the online medium runs on has created a new wave of competition. And this is because of a lot of the characteristics that the internet has, right? That makes it privy to competitors and makes it easy for them to come in. For instance, starting a business on the internet is very easy. And that is because of the low entry and exit barriers that are required for someone to do business on the internet. Currently, when you go to Instagram, there are several businesses on Instagram that do not have any license whatsoever. In fact, they are not even recognized by the Registrar General as companies. However, they are running fluid businesses online and they are making huge amounts of money because of the nature of the internet and its ability to facilitate quick turnaround time for businesses. However, the feed with which they are created is the same feed at which they die. And this is because, again, of the characteristics of the internet that make it easy for firms to enter and exit the market. Now, when it comes to analyzing the micro environment and the macro environment, there are several models that we can use to understand the terrain of these environments and how they affect the activities of the marketer. And for our purposes today, we will be utilizing the Porter's 5 competitive forces model to be able to appreciate the role of competitors and how they influence the activities of the electronic marketer on the internet medium. So who has heard of Porter's competitive forces?
Madam, please, myself.
Okay. Do you know the dimensions?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us 2 of the dimensions.
Buyers power and then suppliers power.
Good. Those are 2 dimensions, right? So that's the bargaining power of buyers and the bargaining power of suppliers. There are 2 more.
I thought they were 5.
Yes, there are 5. Good. So you are paying attention. So tell us 2. Who spoke?
Lanefia.
Lanefia, tell us 2. Then Emanuela will tell us the last one.
Threats of new entrants and threats of substitutes.
That's all I know.
Oh.
Who is that? Is that Emanuela?
No, please.
I'm
Lanefia.
sorry, madam.
Okay. So Emanuela, you don't know the 5th one. Who knows the 5th one?
Competition among existing competitors in the industry.
Competition among
existing competitors in the industry.
Okay. That's the 5th one. You're right. So now that we have established the dimensions of Porter's 5 competitive forces model, let's delve into the individual aspects of the model and what it entails. Now, this model was developed by Porter in 1980, and it basically gives us an idea of how a marketer can go about developing their competitive strategy, right? As well as how they can go about analyzing the various sources of competition and threats that they can be able to make the necessary arrangements to forestall the activities of these various forces so that they are not taken unawares, right? So like we have established, the model gives us 5 dimensions: competitors, new market entrants, substitute products and services, the threat of customers, bargaining power of customers, and the bargaining power of suppliers. So we'll take each of them one after the other. Now let's look at the rivalry among existing competitors first. Now, in any industry that you are operating in, you have people who are also selling the same thing that you are selling, unless you have total monopoly over the market and whatever it is being sold in the market, which is highly unlikely. You will always have competition from other firms. Now, this competition always serves to put you on your toes. And it becomes even more exacerbated when you go to the online medium, where we have just established there is no entry or exit barrier. It is a free-for-all environment, such that you have people who are licensed business operators in their countries operating there, and people who don't have business licenses also operating there. It is a free-for-all environment. In that case, you realize that there are so many people who are selling the same thing that you are selling. In fact, on Instagram now, it is so bad that you have so many people selling the same thing, and you realize that they are all displaying the same pictures on their pages for the products that they are selling. Who has observed this?
I have, madam.
Yeah. So you see the same picture on about 4 or 5 or 6 different pages. And technically, it is not all of them who are selling the same quality of what you see in the picture, but they are all using the same picture, right? And this is a direct consequence of the characteristic of the internet that enables firms to be set up at any time in any sector at all, as long as the product or service can be easily sold on the internet, right? So that is what we refer to when we talk about the rivalry among existing competitors. Some are fraudsters. Yes, they are, but because it's no man's land and there are no rules, they set themselves up to look like legitimate businesses who are selling items, right? And if you fall for it, you will end up getting scammed. So for the unexperienced buyer, they will not be able to tell whether this person is a fraudster or not. All they know is that they have opened the page, they have displayed the product, they are interested in it, and they will initiate an attempt to buy. And there are ways by which you can identify these fraudster pages, right? One typical way you can use to identify them is the fact that they do not display a lot of contact information. So they do not have store location, they do not have a specific number that you can contact them on. They'll tell you everything should be done in the DMs. That alone is a red flag. Another red flag is the one where they tell you payment before delivery. That's another red flag. So for me, I never do payment before delivery. And another red flag is where you see they have a lot of posts, but almost no comments, no reviews by customers, or half payment. Good. That's a new trick they are using, since they realize that people have caught on to the payment before delivery scam. And sometimes too, you realize that all the pictures that they have on their pages are very perfect pictures that they have copied from different locations. And then under these pages, you realize that the posts are very recent. They post a lot in a very short period of time. All these are typical ways by which you can notice that this is a fraud page. So please, you have to be vigilant. Whenever you decide to buy from an online seller, look out for all these telltale signs before you go ahead and buy. Otherwise, you might end up becoming a victim of these fraudsters. Okay. So Robert, thank you for bringing up the issue of the fraudsters. Let's move on. So now that we've understood the concept of rivalry among existing competitors, let's talk about bargaining power of buyers. Now, this bargaining power of buyers comes about as a result of the power that the internet medium gives consumers. Remember, we talked about the fact that the internet has certain characteristics that make it unique. And we talked about the fact that one particular characteristic is a double-edged sword. Do you remember? It is both of benefits to the marketer and at the same time a threat to the marketer. Do you remember that? Okay, so do you remember the characteristic of the internet that refers to the fact that it gives customers access to huge amounts of information?
Yes.
What characteristic of the internet is that?
Yes.
characteristic of the internet
Information
is that?
density.
Information density. Good. Who said that?
Information density. Emanuela.
Stella.
Okay. So information density, yes. Right? And it's the same information density that fuels this bargaining power of buyers. Because this information density includes all the information about the wide selection of products and services that are available for customers to buy online. This information density includes all the different product and service options that they have online. This information density also includes the various sites that have huge amounts of product evaluations that have been done on several products, as well as the price comparison sites that enable customers to compare the prices of different products across different websites and platforms over the internet. All of this is as a direct consequence of information density. So if you are a customer and you have all this information, you know your options, you know the selection of products that exist. You can check evaluations and know which one is good and which one is bad. You become very powerful because in some ways, this huge amount of information that you have access to places the marketer at your mercy, because you can decide that you do not want to purchase this company's product and rather purchase this other company's product because perhaps they offer you a better price after you did the price comparison over the internet. Hitherto, you could not do that in the traditional setting. So here's the scenario. If you wanted to compare prices in the traditional setting, can anyone give me an idea how you would have had to do it? If you wanted to compare prices offline in the brick and mortar context, how would you have gone about it?
You would have walked from shop to shop asking people
Exactly.
how much cost.
Kobe Kumsin agrees with that ideology. You would walk from shop to shop. Imagine how long that will take. And for some people, the sheer level of effort involved in doing that alone will deter them from doing it, so they will not waste their time. But the internet makes it so easy, you don't have to go from shop to shop. You just sit in the comfort of your home and you do all that with the click of a button, right? And that is part of the reason why customers have high bargaining power when it comes to the internet. Because they are able to do all these myriad things because of the huge amount of information that they have at their disposal, right? So that is it for bargaining power of buyers. Next, we can talk about the bargaining power of suppliers. And here we are talking about the fact that in terms of suppliers, in as much as the buyers now have high bargaining power because of the information at their disposal, suppliers also have high bargaining power because of the capabilities that the internet gives them. So for instance, we are talking about companies like Facebook, Apple, Amazon, who have found smart ways of using the internet capabilities at their disposal to be able to take advantage of what the internet offers them to make themselves powerful. In fact, recently, we have seen a huge display of this bargaining power of suppliers among one of the tech giants. Who can tell me about this thing? Because you're supposed to be abreast of the trends in technology and all that. So who can tell me about this new development that has exhibited the bargaining power of suppliers in the online environment? Let me give you a clue. It has to do with social networks and messaging platforms.
Facebook.
Please, when you want to speak, you raise your hand. You have to maintain some order. Hannah, go ahead.
Facebook.
Yes. What about Facebook?
I think Facebook did an update on their app, I think on WhatsApp, that allowed them to gather information from the WhatsApp platform and share that information on Facebook, something like that.
That is part of the reason, but it is not the full story. Right? That's part of the story. So well done, Hannah. So we need someone to help us piece it together and give the full picture. Emanuela, come in.
Okay, so madam, I'm going to talk about Zoom.
You're going to talk about what?
Zoom.
No, Zoom is not what I'm talking about when I refer to the most recent exhibition of bargaining power of suppliers. It's not Zoom.
Okay.
It's Facebook, yes. But the story of Facebook is not just about the updates on WhatsApp that enables them to gather the information. There's more to it.
Madam, I think it has to do with privacy issues.
There's more to it. It's not just the privacy issues. You people have to think.
And antitrust. And
it's more than the privacy issue still has to do with the antitrust. Think. Facebook doesn't own just one platform, do they? No. How many platforms do they own? Please, if you want to speak, raise your hand. How many platforms do they own? Akwesi Minta, you said 3. Okay, so mention them. Okay, so Kobe Kunsin says Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Good. Now, the bargaining power of the suppliers in this regard. Okay, Hannah, come in.
Yeah, I think so because Facebook controls these 3 social platforms that really have close substitutes. I mean, they are on a certain level that everybody uses them. Deciding to stop using WhatsApp or Instagram or Facebook will leave you behind. So you just say, okay, fine, I'll just go with it. So
yeah, that's still part of the story. Good. People will still use it. So Facebook is capitalizing on it. And what are they doing now? They have integrated all the 3 platforms. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Good. They've integrated all the 3. So what you do on Instagram can be replicated on Facebook, right? Information can be transferred across. And by so doing, they are gathering more data about customers, which they can in turn sell to the highest bidder. Currently, Apple is designing all its devices such that you cannot use them with devices from other manufacturers. You cannot even use them with accessories from other manufacturers. And because they know that, they have stopped doing something. Right now, when you buy your phone, it doesn't come with all the accessories you used to come with. You now have to buy them separately because they know they have the bargaining power. So these are 2 typical examples of the bargaining power of suppliers like Facebook and Apple, who are capitalizing on the strengths that they have in terms of the specific capabilities and resources that the internet affords them to be able to establish their position and also make significant gains, right? Next, we can talk about the threat of substitute products and services. And this one is pretty straightforward. We realize that on the market, there are so many substitute products that consumers can be able to enjoy, especially over the internet. When you go to perhaps the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, you can see so many apps that do virtually the same thing. They have some different levels of performance, but they are all there and they do virtually the same thing. And day in, day out, more apps are being added that do the same thing. And that continues to exacerbate the threat of substitute products and services problem because it is not stopping anytime soon. And that is why we talked about environmental scanning in the beginning and the performance of a situation analysis, because you cannot wait for your substitutes, the firms who have substitute products to yours to come onto the market and begin competing aggressively before you notice their presence and do something about it. You should be able to have systems in place such that even before they come to market with their product, you have already strategized on how to deal with them and handle them. Okay, so the threat of new entrants. When we talk about the threat of new entrants, we are talking about the fact that, remember we established earlier that it is very easy for businesses to be set up over the internet to market various products and services because of the low entry and exit barriers. So when we talk about the threat of new entrants, what does it mean in terms of electronic marketing? Jindong, when we say threat of new entrants, what does it mean?
Yes, madam. So as a result of increasing technological improvements and how all improvements sort of exponentially improve the old technology, it's easier for new businesses to try and replicate or build upon what even incumbents in the markets have done to be able to compete with those same incumbents.
Good. So right now, Tesla developed a very good model electric car. All of a sudden, Apple is also going to develop one. Did you know that?
Yes, madam.
Good. So that's a typical example of what we are talking about when we talk about the threats of new entrants. And like Kobe rightly said, they can even look at what has already been done on the market and come up with something new and perhaps even better. Right? So thank you, Kobe, for that submission. Another example we can talk about is the home devices. Right? The first one that came onto the market was the Amazon Echo. What's the name of the AI that controls Amazon Echo?
Alexa.
Alexa, that's her name, right? And it became so popular. People fell so much in love with it that the incumbents in the market said, no, we can't allow Amazon to monopolize the market like that. We also need to come up with our own, right? And even before then, AI was already being utilized by other firms such as Apple in their devices, right? What's the AI that Apple used to use in the iPhone and is still using?
Siri. Siri.
Siri, good. Who spoke?
Robert.
Robert, okay, yes, Siri. Right? So it basically made sense for them to also expand into the home market and also design their own HomePod and decided to name it the Apple HomePod to compete directly with the Amazon Echo. Right? And then Google also said, hey, we are also giants in the industry. We can't let it go. We also come up with our own, and they named it Google Home. So we can see examples of these threats of new entrants happening day in, day out. So as an electronic marketer operating online, you are never safe. And that is why the consistent monitoring of the environment through environmental scanning and the performance of the situation analysis is important, because that is the only way you can be able to spot all these new entrants and how they are coming into the market and what they are bringing, to be able to strategize enough to address all these potential challenges that their entry into the market will cause you and your organization. Right? So these are the pods I was talking about. We have the Google Home device, the Amazon Echo, and the Apple HomePod. And bear in mind that Amazon since then has diversified. In fact, the Amazon Echo now comes in so many different shapes and sizes. Do you know that?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Gideon, your hand was up, or you're okay?
Madam, please, I would like to find out if we can also talk about the resources needed for this, for the digital platform, as in its cost being low, as one of the reasons why threats of new entrants in the digital space is high.
The reason
Let's
why
say something
we
for
can't necessarily talk about cost is that it depends on how you want to enter the market. Are you with me?
Yes, please.
So yes, low cost is a factor that enables some group of entrants to enter the market. But if you actually want to do digital and do it properly, it costs a lot of resources. Do you know that?
Yes, please.
Not just financial, but in terms of time and effort. So it depends on how you look at it. But yes, the internet affords the opportunity to enter the market in a low cost manner. So you can't say that, but only in some cases. I hope you're okay, Gideon.
Yes, please. Thanks, ma'am.
You're welcome. All right. So that brings us to the end of the discussion on competition, right? And how Porter's 5 forces can help us to be able to deal with the competitive forces in the immediate environment of the e-marketer. Now let's move on to the second player in the microenvironment, being suppliers. Now, suppliers deliver the goods and services that a firm needs to carry out its business activities further down the supply chain. So suppliers here, when we talk about it in terms of the e-marketing context, are all those organizations and firms that exist over the internet and which provide services to enable firms to operate over the internet medium. So we can talk about everything from those who sell the domain names to those who run the servers, right, that help people host their websites, to those who provide certain specific services online. Some provide human resource services. Some provide other services that help businesses to be able to function smoothly in the online medium, right? Now, the supply chain can take many different forms online, depending on whether you are selling a physical or a digital product, right? Now, in terms of suppliers in the online environment, depending on how powerful they are and what they control, they can be able to influence everything from your product or service in terms of its quality, sometimes its design, to how much you charge for it, as well as its availability and features, right? Francis says, Doc, don't you think that customers of these companies might be fed up in the future with their rapid changes they are making? I do not believe so. The reason being that it's not just these companies that are changing rapidly. Bear in mind that they are changing in response to customer needs. So they are evolving right along with the customer. In fact, almost all the evolution that is taking place is in response to one customer need or the other. So they are changing with the times. And all they are doing is basically to keep up with the manifold wants and desires of customers, right? I think the students who are in e-commerce will appreciate this better when we talk about the customer needs and expectations. They are myriad, right? There are so many needs and expectations of customers, and they can never be fully satisfied. So all these changes that they are making is to achieve some level of perfection, even though they will not be able to attain it, to come as close as they can to fully satisfying customer needs. So Francis, I hope that makes sense. Good. So in that case, what I'm saying is that these suppliers, because of the nature of what they do and the power that they have, you're welcome, Francis, can control firm activities to the extent of sometimes controlling the quality of the product or service that they sell, controlling how much they sell the product for, even the availability of the product and the features of the product. Let me give you a typical example. For the Instagram businesses, there was a time where Instagram went dark and nobody could access it. Please, do you remember? Does anybody remember? Last year, Instagram went dark for a day.
Yes,
Who
madam.
remembers? Yeah, people were losing their minds. And at that point in time, anybody who was selling any product or service on Instagram could no longer sell it. So at that point in time, Instagram affected what? What did Instagram affect? Look at the things here. Which one did Instagram affect? By Instagram going dark, what did it affect in terms of the businesses who are selling products and services on the Instagram platform? What did it affect?
Availability.
Availability. Because they could not access their pages to be able to even see what products they have in stock to even decide to buy it in the first place. Right? Let me give you another example. So assuming you are hosting your website on a particular server and you are paying a certain amount for this hosting, then all of a sudden the server owner comes and says, I am hiking my prices by 100%. And meanwhile, you are hosting your e-commerce website on this supplier's server. Which aspects will it affect? Which aspect of your operations as an e-marketer will it affect?
Price.
Price. Because if they are doubling how much you are paying for the server space, you need to find a way to pass the cost on somehow. And the unfortunate end consumer is the one who bears the brunt. Stella, well done. So it will affect price, right? And currently, because of the online medium and its capabilities, we are seeing so many of these powerful suppliers emerging who are controlling so many things. A typical example is Amazon, right? Amazon runs a number of services, but currently its top 2 best performing services are the Amazon e-commerce platform and Amazon Web Services. Now, of these 2, Amazon e-commerce and Amazon Web Services, which one do you think is more profitable?
E-commerce.
Who said e-commerce? Is it Icha? Onyoza?
Yes, please.
You said e-commerce. Please, who agrees
Yes.
with her? Okay, so Francis says e-commerce. Rosalind says e-commerce. Gloria says e-commerce. Wow, we have e-commerce fans in the house. Anyone with a contrary view? Do you all think it's e-commerce? At least we should have people on both sides. Where are the NDC people? Let's take it. E-commerce is the MPP. Okay, we have some NDC people. Samuel Sefa says it's web services. Anyone else who shares Samuel Sefa's view? Anyone? So it's only Samuel. Are you ready for the answer? Are you ready for the answer? Okay, we have more web service supporters. Gideon, you said what? Cloud computing. Why does cloud computing come in here? We are talking about Amazon Web Services and Amazon e-commerce, and we are asking which one is more profitable. So Gideon, you need to rephrase your answer. Are you for the e-commerce or for the web services? Someone says their information is limited. Web services is the answer. Okay, so let's give the answer now. Okay. So the answer is, in terms of profitability, Amazon Web Services is more profitable than Amazon e-commerce. In fact, in the year 2019, Amazon Web Services made a total of over $17 billion US. In the year 2020, they made a total of over $10 billion US. And this is even during a pandemic. Right? So Amazon Web Services is basically a firm that provides server space, cyber security, and all the infrastructure that businesses need to operate on the internet. You name it, they offer it. Right? And Amazon has been able to dominate that sector so much that currently they have the largest percentage in terms of cloud services market share, which is 51.8%. 51.8%. And this is because they provide server space to some of the world's most prominent and largest organizations operating online. Thank you. CIA is on Amazon Web Services, right? Examples, more examples of companies on Amazon Web Services. Netflix, yes, Netflix is actually the largest organization on Amazon Web Services at the moment because Netflix controls up to 15% of global internet bandwidth. And they are hosted by Amazon. So you can see the extent of Amazon's influence. And at their number 1 spot, the closest that comes in at number 2 is Microsoft. And they come in at number 2 with a measly 13.3%. So that means that we can technically say Amazon is the largest landlord on the internet at the moment, because if they are controlling up to 51.8% in terms of the cloud service market, and the closest at number 2 is controlling 13.3%. I mean, you're saying Kindle. Yeah, Kindle is one of their services. So you're right. But we have been able to establish that their service that pays the most, that is the highest earning, that has made them the most powerful, is Amazon Web Services. And by virtue of having this much control over the cloud service market share means that they have control over huge amounts of information. Imagine hosting the CIA. The CIA has a lot of intelligence. You know what intelligence is? Classified information about nations, world leaders. And Amazon has access to all this information, right? So we can understand now, what is the CIA? Please, can someone tell Jindong what the CIA is? Hannah, please go ahead.
It's the Central Intelligence Agency.
Thank you very much. Of the United States of America. And you know they have information on everybody. Right? And he who has the information has the power. So why are you saying not Ghana? Someone say, why are you saying not Ghana? Kindly elaborate. Is it not Ghana for CIA or not Ghana for Amazon Web Services? Please elaborate. Ghana doesn't have any important information. To you, Samuel Sefa, to you, we may not have any important information. People gather information. In fact, the US, for instance, has all these intelligence agencies. Russia has all these intelligence agencies gathering information, not because you are an immediate threat, but you might become a threat. In fact, they are doing what we have discussed at the beginning of this lecture. They are also doing environmental scanning and situation analysis to make sure that they have enough information on you to know whether you are an immediate threat or there's an opportunity to be able to understand your strengths and weaknesses in case they have to go to battle against you one day. So everybody is important too. Ghana too has BNI. Hey, Samuel Sefa, let's leave the discussion here. Where you are going, it is beyond my pay grade. So, hey, please, this thing you are discussing, we are on Zoom. Oh. We are on Zoom. They are monitoring us. Please, don't be, if they come, I don't know you. This thing you are saying. Please, let's leave it here and move on. So that is it for the supplier. Me, I'm not afraid though. I'm not afraid. I'm just being cautious. Yes, I'm just being cautious. I don't believe in looking for trouble. Kobe, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Madam, I wanted to add a little about the supplier bargaining power that we talked about.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I noticed something about the Amazon Web Services thing, which is that they have various levels of services they provide to businesses. So small businesses have like low server space that they rent and all of that. So one way that Amazon can both, I think Amazon benefits from both angles of the competitor and then the supplier, because now Amazon might be supplying web space to a competitor who is now starting up.
That's true.
And because of how fast or how slow a competitor is increasing their server space, Amazon can notice how well they are doing and how much of a threat they are to be able to increase their competition with them.
Good. And it's as a direct result of what we just talked about, the access to the information.
Yeah.
Right? So it could be very, very, very important addition. Thank you for that submission. And Amazon has been known in the past to be very ruthless when it comes to taking out their competitors. They show no mercy. So thank you, Kobe, for adding that. Right? So with that, we come to the end of the discussion on suppliers. So let's move on to intermediaries, right? So as a student said in one of the other classes, he said intermediaries are the middlemen of the internet, right? They help a company to promote, sell, and distribute their products or services, right? At the same time, enhancing customer convenience. So when it comes to the online medium, we have what we refer to as online intermediary sites. And they basically provide information about destination sites, right? And at the same time, are a means of connecting internet users with product information. So we have online intermediary sites like Tonaton, Jumia, Gigi, Amazon. They all connect you to sellers of particular products for you to be able to buy. eBay, Terrible for someone, good job. eBay, right? eBay is an example of an auction site, which is an intermediary. Alibaba, they also connect you. Good, Jindong, right? Now, because of the introduction of the internet, we have seen various streams of these intermediaries pop up. Hitherto offline, we only had wholesalers and retailers, and then a few other intermediaries who were helping customers get more convenient access to services. But the internet medium has blown up the role of the intermediary such that it has even created new forms of intermediaries that previously did not even exist in the offline context, like the auction sites we are talking about, the eBays, like the price comparison sites we can talk about, like Price Runner and Kelco, right? Like the social networks and the blogs. Kantamanto Online, Samuel Sifa. I know they exist, but why did you have to throw them here? All right, Google Ads, Google Search. Yes, they are all intermediaries because they connect you, right? So like I was saying, the internet has created new channel structures such that we have seen varied strains and forms of intermediation happening over the internet. Daniela, you can come in. Or your hand, okay, you put your hand down. I know they had a site like that. It's not called Kantamanto Online per se. It had a name, but they were selling secondhand clothes online, right? So that can be a form of intermediary as well, because I guess they take from those who get the secondhand clothes in the bills, and then they disaggregate, and then they sell it to the final consumer. Okay, Sefa, can you elaborate on how it works? Benjamin says it actually exists. Okay, so can you give us a brief on how it works very quickly? How does it work? How do they do the intermediation? How do they serve as intermediaries between the sellers and the buyers? You don't buy there, you shop on ASOS. Okay, that's fine. But can you explain to us? You have not tried. Okay, you just saw the page in passing. Okay, so your homework, please go and see how the page works. And then in our next class, you will tell us about it. Is that fair? Okay, good. So please start your homework, Benjamin and Samuel Sifa. Just find out how the model works and how they intermediate. Okay. So moving on, we are talking about the fact that the internet has created new channel structures, right? Especially when it comes to intermediation. And we can talk about two main new forms of intermediation that have emerged. The first one is disintermediation. Disintermediation in the sense that through digital platforms, sellers have been able to eliminate intermediaries altogether and now sell directly to their customers. So hitherto, if someone wanted to buy a book from Pearson in Ghana, they would have had to perhaps go to EPP Books or go to Setco. But now, they can go directly to the platform of Pearson Books, buy the book, and have it shipped to them in Ghana, right? So that is disintermediation. At the same time, we can talk of re-intermediation, where we have had new forms of intermediaries emerge. And these include everyone from Tonaton to Jumia to Price Runner, all of whom have created new platforms by which they can connect sellers to buyers. So for Tonaton, they connect sellers to different products, to buyers who are looking for these products to be able to buy. Jumia Food does the same thing. They connect all the various food vendors that are signed with them to the various buyers or customers who would like to purchase food from these vendors for consumption. Rosalind Darko, the disintermediation is about eliminating the intermediaries altogether. So previously, if you would have had to give your items to somebody to sell on your behalf, or put it in somebody's shop for the person to sell and then give you your money at the end of the month, now you can just ignore them, go straight to Instagram, open a page, post the items there, add your phone number, and people will call you and you can sell directly to them. So that is it for the disintermediation. Now, because of the beauty of the power of the internet, you find out that firms can always run concurrent versions of these channel structures. So for instance, you can find a firm operating both a disintermediation and a re-intermediation strategy, where they are using their website to sell directly to customers, but at the same time too, they have listed on other third-party sites where they can be contacted to be able to sell their products as well. All this helps the firm to enhance their reach, to be able to reach more customers at a time. So you find out that Pearson books can be bought directly on the Pearson website, but you can also get Pearson books from Amazon Books. This doesn't make sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Yes,
So that is it for the new channel structures, being disintermediation and reintermediation. Now, with that discussion, we've come to the end of the discussion of the micro environment. We are now moving on to the macro environment. And before we do so, does anyone have any sentiments they would like to share? Any question they want to ask so we can address it before we move on very quickly? Are we all okay then? All right. So let's move on to the macro environment. So we talked about the fact that the micro environment is made up of the players in the immediate surroundings of the organization who affect and are affected by the organization. And these activities that occur in the micro environment are largely within the control of the firm. Unlike the macro environment, which contains broad forces that can affect the success of all organizations in the marketplace. And with that being said, activities that take place in the macro environment are largely beyond the control of the organization. Because like we've established, it affects all organizations. Samuel Sefa. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad this is your favorite class. We thank God. Okay, Kobe agrees. We thank God. All right, let's continue. So these forces in the macro environment are largely beyond the control of the organization. So there's not much you can do. And again, that is why the situation analysis and the environmental scanning is very important. Because since you cannot control what is happening in this market, you have to be able to keep an eye on things at all times so that immediately something changes, you can take advantage, whether it is an opportunity or if it is a threat, you can quickly adjust yourself and protect your organization from its impact, right? And in the online environment, it becomes even more severe because with the changes that occur in this environment, they are very erratic. And because they are beyond your control, if you do not see them ahead of time to be able to prepare adequately, you'll just be a sitting duck and whatever happens will affect you. So why should we care about the macro environment and what is happening there? Largely because we are dealing with forces that are out of our control. We cannot control them. And therefore, we need to know about them well in advance so that we can be able to take the necessary action to protect ourselves from its consequences. Now, you remember we talked about the Porter's 5 competitive forces and how we can use it to break down how competition in the micro environment affects the organization. Here we are going to use the SLEPT model. Some of you know it as the PEST model, but here we've added another letter to the acronym, being the L, to be able to help us dissect what goes on in the macro environment, right? So when we talk about the SLEPT model here, we are talking about 5 main dimensions, including the socio-cultural, legal, economic, political, and technological. So we'll take each of them one after the other, and then we'll break it down. The first one we'll talk about is socio-cultural forces. And these ones have to do with issues like demographics, how many people are within a particular age group. And currently on the internet, age groups are a huge issue because we have identified that specific age group, especially those age groups like the Generation Y and the Generation Z, which we call the millennials and the Gen Z, are largely more prone to doing business over the internet. They basically live, eat, breathe, sleep the internet. So everything about their lives is tied to the internet such that if you are a marketer and you want to reach them, you need to have a good appreciation of the online medium. So demographics are a key aspect of socio-cultural forces that influence how marketers go about developing their strategy. At the same time too, we can talk about issues like values and cultural diversity, right? Because depending on the culture of the people that you are selling to, you have to be able to adjust your marketing strategy to ensure that you are in line with what is acceptable and what is not acceptable based on their values and their culture. So if you are running an online platform in, say, a country like Dubai, there's a limit as to the kind of images that you can use, the kind of language that you can use because of their values and their cultural systems, right? The same applies for doing business in other parts of the world. An understanding of their values and culture is fundamental to developing a good marketing strategy that will help you to be able to sell your products and services. So you need to appreciate the socio-cultural issues, especially as it has to do with the digital environment and the communities of individuals in those environments that you are targeting with your products and services. Likewise, you can talk about legal issues. Legal forces prevail in every territory and region of the world, depending on where you are operating from, be it North Korea, China, Ghana, UK, USA. There are certain laws that apply to doing business in the online domain. And you need to be abreast of these laws to ensure that you do not violate any of them, and you can effectively operate within those confines to be able to get your marketing objectives achieved. So in the US, for instance, because of the level of advancements that they have with regards to buying and selling online, they have several laws that protect consumers, that detail how buying and selling online involving consumers and various service providers and product sellers should be able to proceed. But in Ghana, we have no such law that governs internet exchanges. That's why people can defraud people online, and when you complain, they just say, give it to God. That's why people can defraud you on mobile money and take all your money. You call MTN and they tell you there's nothing they can do about it. Your money is gone. Please, who has been defrauded on MTN mobile money before?
Madam, I didn't really lose money, but yesterday, some of them called me and they were pretending to be sending something from London to me. So I should send money to pay for 10% of it because the person sending it has already sent 90%. But I just got them on the line long enough for them to send me the Momo number so I could forward it to MTN. So that's what happened. That was yesterday.
Yeah. In fact, I actually went through a similar experience, but I wanted to be able to go through the full process to see how it will end up. I ended up losing 200 Ghana cedis. So if I said, if they ask for 100 cedis, send 200. So if I cannot run a charity, the same way they want to survive, we also want to survive. So like I was saying, I actually went through the whole process to see what will happen. Yeah. And they are very elaborate in their scheme. The moment you deposit the money in the MTN mobile money account, they withdraw it. You know, MTN has an option where you can call and reverse a transaction. Robert, please, let's treat each other with dignity. You can't call anybody a fraudster, please. Let's show each other respect. So MTN has a facility where you can actually call them, their service center, and tell them that you have made a deposit into an account, it was a mistake, or the service was not delivered, you want your money back, and they can reverse the transaction. But you have to do it before whoever you sent the money to withdraws it. The moment the money is withdrawn, there's nothing MTN can do. All they can do is to block that number. Sifai is sharing his, Francis is sharing his experience. He says the guy called and said he mistakenly sent money. Yes, they do that a lot. So you should follow some process and do refund before you realize your money is gone. Yeah, don't follow any process when they call you like that. You know they are liars. And then they'll send you a text message purportedly looking like somebody has put some money in your account by mistake. And trust me, every time MTN sends you a message, it is their name that will appear. If they call you, they'll call you with their number that ends in, is it 9,000 or something? Yes, with bad English, Jessica. The moment I hear the voice of the person in the English, that sometimes they don't even speak English, they speak Tree. And sometimes they lose patience with you. They will rather start insulting you. It's very interesting. Kobe, please come in.
Madam, sorry, it was the first time I raised my hand.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, Samuel, come in quickly so that we can proceed. We have a lot to cover and we have only a short time left.
Madam, that remembers me, you know.
Yeah.
The way they send the numbers is they can send you a mobile money message, but through a text message.
Yeah.
The normal text message.
Yeah, they've done it.
I was about to send. I was about to send money, but my brother prompted me.
MTN will never send you a message like that. Never.
He even said, he's not even shy. He sent it to me through a to-go number.
Can you imagine?
No.
So please, you see how they can. So it's about paying attention to the little details. Otherwise, you will easily get defrauded, right? So Sefa, thank you for sharing. So apart from the legal issues, we can also talk about economic issues. We all know that the prevailing economic conditions in every country is different, right? Norway and Denmark and Sweden have some of the highest standards of living in the world. So definitely, if you're selling to people in Norway and they can afford the product at a certain price, you don't expect that people in Ghana will pay the same price for the same product, right? So you have to be able to appreciate the economic conditions in every country when you are doing business online, because that will determine how you will be able to modify your marketing mix to suit the conditions within the markets that you want to operate in. The same goes for political forces. At a point in time, people who were doing business in the United States were so confused, especially those who had to rely on China for supplies, right? As well as other products to be able to sell. Because of the trade war that was going on between President Donald Trump and the president of China. Day in, day out, there was a new trade policy that imposed higher restrictions and limitations on doing business with China, right? And that's a typical example of how political forces can actually disrupt business activities. In Africa here, we have experienced so many examples of politics interfering with daily activities of citizens such that the internet sometimes gets shut down for prolonged periods of time, often for political reasons, right? We can also talk about technological forces, which we have established are always at work. And technology changes overnight, such that in a split second, the moment a technology changes, a whole line of, say, products may become redundant because the technology on which they were developed is outmoded, right? And currently we have parts of the world where certain technological devices may not even be able to function because those regions have not advanced to that level. As we are speaking now, 5G is working in different parts of the world and they are being able to use all manner of devices and do phenomenal things. In Ghana here, even 4G, we are still trying to see top because the internet connectivity is so poor, not to talk of meaningful access. How many people can afford to buy a smartphone, right? How many people even can afford to buy data at the prices at which they are selling them? So these are all technological forces that can affect our activities, right? Good. So now that we have established the dimensions of the SLEFT model, let's look at it in terms of the dimensions of the macroeconomic environment, that Shafi and Ellis Chadwick talked about. So we'll look at the PESTEL model in relation to technology, the international environment, country-specific factors, and then society. And then we'll take a few examples. So good. Let's start with the international environments. Like we have said, internet use varies greatly from country to country. We just established that in Ghana here, 4G says, as Samuel and Francis agree with me, we are still trying to grapple with it. You get it in your bedroom, you don't get it in your home. You get it in the kitchen, you don't get it on campus. So in Ghana here, the level of connectivity, right, may be different, significantly different from a more developed country like, say, Norway or the US, where they have been able to sort out their connectivity issues. Currently, when you go to the UK, 5G is being used, right? So that will affect how you will do business online and the manner in which you go about formulating your e-marketing strategy. Okay, countries also vary, like we said, in terms of economic development. Countries vary in terms of their currency, right? So you need to also take into account the exchange rates of the different currencies in the countries that you want to sell your products in. Because like I said, the standards of living are very different. So the Norwegian krona and its value compared to the Ghana cedi are not the same. So if you're operating from Ghana, you're operating in Ghana cedis, know that if you're doing business in Norway, the exchange rate must influence how you go about marketing your products and services to people in that country, right? So a typical example, Amazon has been able to perfect this to a T, such that in their high profile markets where they know they generate high amounts of revenue, they like to pay close attention to them by developing sites specific to them. So we have a site dedicated solely to India, right? Called Amazon India. And India is currently the second most populated country in the world. Why not Amazon China? Yes, Emanuela.
Madam, it's because of China's restrictions when doing business with other countries.
Good. China
And
has
because
school
they have
restrictions.
Alibaba, they tend.
Good. That's another point too. Well said, Emanuela. China has a response to every major online platform out there. Their answer to Facebook is WeChat. Their answer to Google is Baidu. Their answer to Amazon is Alibaba. And their laws also make it very difficult for international firms to set up e-commerce platforms in China. So Emanuela, well done, right? So Amazon went straight for Amazon India, right? And they did the same too for Amazon UK. And they did the same for Amazon Netherlands. There's another one too for Amazon Germany, right? But they don't have Amazon Ghana. So we have to buy from the Amazon US sites like that and struggle to find our own way to get it delivered to us at whatever high cost delivery that they charge. You see, so that is it for the international environment. Next, we can talk about the technological factors within the macro environment. Innovations are taking place in real time. So it is very important for us to be able to keep up with these innovations and digital marketing trends. And currently, the most popular one we can talk about is AI, or artificial intelligence. AI is in everything. Alexa is AI. Siri is AI. The chatbots that they have been using to communicate with us when we go to visit our bank's website to do live chat is AI. That customized email they've been sending to you every year on your birthday is AI, right? And they are finding new ways of using AI to do so many things. When you go into your Instagram feed, you go and search for a page where they sell shoes and bags. All of a sudden, the next moment, you see that every advert that is recommended to you is for a shoe and bag seller. It is not the witches in your village. It is AI. They've learned your patterns of browsing, and they're using that to suggest content to you. Another thing we can talk about are ad blockers. So let's take the first part. First, we can talk about ad blockers, right? So ad blockers are add-ons that were developed for you to be able to install into your website to help you to block the pop-up ads and the contents that come to disrupt your browsing experience. However, websites found a way of blocking these ad blockers because without showing the adverts, they'll not be able to make the money that they are being paid for showing the adverts. So guess what? Marketers came up with another strategy to be able to keep customers happy by introducing ad blockers to stop these websites from preventing customers from using ad blockers. And that is another digital marketing trend. The third digital marketing trend we can talk about is video marketing. And this one has been around for so long and it's just increasing, right? So video marketing is what is responsible for the phenomenon we now see as TikTok. It's what is responsible for Snapchat. It's what is responsible for Instagram Reels, Instagram Stories. Customers are too lazy to go and read pages and pages of content with plenty words. Show it to them in a video. It is easier to watch, it is more entertaining, and requires less effort, right? And with that, video marketing has now become one of the most popular ways that customers want to learn about products and services. If you don't put it in a video and you go and put it in a long post, nobody will read. But if it's a video, they'll be able to watch, and it will be very easy for them to even share with others. The last technology I want to talk about is a rather new kind of technology that has been developed to benefit retailers who sell online in the fashion industry. Now you realize for a long time, especially those of us who buy online, Sifa, you can corroborate on this, Samuel. When you buy clothes online, they help you be able to determine your appropriate size, but they can't do so to a T. So they give you a size guide for you to use it to gauge using certain dimensions on certain parts of your body, which dress will fit. But we all know that we are all not built the same. We are built differently. So software manufacturers have come up with two new forms of technology to help solve this problem. And these are the Zozo mat and the Zozo bodysuit. Has anyone heard of any of these two technologies? Either the Zozo mat or the Zozo bodysuit. Has anyone heard of them? No. Okay. Okay. So let's first talk about the Zozo mat. This is the Zozo mat. So the Zozo mat is basically a mat, right, with dimensions and dots and color codes that works together with an app to help you take accurate measurements of the dimensions of your feet. So you place your leg on the mat, you install the app, you turn it on, and then you use your camera together with the app to take angled pictures of your foot using the color codes that have been created on the mat. So by the time you finish taking pictures at all the angles of the different color codes, the app will be able to render an image showing you the exact dimensions of both your feet. And then it will give you, based on the dimensions of your feet, the actual shoe size that will fit. And that's what the Zozo mat does. Now the Zozo suit, on the other hand, helps you to be able to take your physical dimensions. So what the Zozo mat does for your feet, the Zozo suit does for your body. So you put on the suit, and then you install the app, and you open the app. And the app, together with your camera, will scan the different dots on the different parts of your body as you have worn the suit. And by the time you are done, it will be able to give you all your body specifications from your neck to your ankles. And that way, it can be able to tell the exact size of dress that will fit you. And even if you were ordering a dress from, say, an online retailer or an online tailor, you just have to send them your dimensions as was captured in the app. And whatever they sew, if they use that same dimensions, will fit you to a T. And that is what the Zozo suit does. So you realize that day in, day out, the technology is evolving. The technology is changing. And marketers have to readjust themselves to all these new changes. So assuming you were an e-marketer for an online fashion retailer, you need to start discussing on how your organization can acquire these items, or go into partnership with this company that is developing this technology to make it available to your customers so that they can use it to take accurate measurements of their bodies, so that when you are sending clothes to them, they'll find it easy to get their right measurements. Are there companies using it in Ghana? Not that I'm aware of. Currently, I know the companies that are using it are in Japan mainly because the mother company is from Japan. And then I know some US people too have tried it, but mainly in Japan. Yeah, in Ghana, we are still using tape measure. Even with that, they'll still take your measurements and they'll get the dimensions wrong. That's how far we have come. Okay. So now that we have finished with the technological aspect, let's talk about the country-specific aspect. Grace, yes, so Ghanaian artisans, they won't kill us, and then they'll spoil your cloth and they'll say sorry. So as an e-marketer, depending on the context you find yourself in, you need to be able to know your situation, hence the importance of the situation analysis, so that you can be able to adjust yourself accordingly. Now, talking of country-specific factors, we've already touched on this severally when we're talking about the political and economic issues under the pestle model, right? We can talk about things ranging from level of internet penetration and access to internet adoption, the policies and laws in the country, the political control and the democracy, right? Which Africa struggles with a lot, the taxation systems, the level of economic growth and infrastructure. Like I said, when it comes to internet connectivity in countries like Ghana, we are still yet to achieve meaningful access. Internet is not that much affordable in our part of the world. The infrastructure is not that good, right? Even with the bad quality, they are still charging exorbitant prices. Not to mention access to smart devices. It's not common to everyone, right? So country-specific issues like these, including internet governance, can affect how you do business, right? So let's look at some typical examples. For instance, some years back, I think 2 or 3 years ago, in Chad, the president shut down the internet for a whole year because there was violence going on in the country. And they thought by shutting off the internet, the influences will cease, and then the people will not be able to share what was going on in the country with the international community. Now, assuming you were an e-marketer operating in this country, for that whole 1 year that the internet was shut off, you will not be able to conduct any business. True or false?
True. It's true.
True. And that is a typical example of how country-specific factors can affect the activities of an e-marketer. Lois, I'll have to check to get back to you on that. I don't remember which year it was, but I'll have to check. Another one we can talk about is the Venezuelan president. He has been notorious for a long time. And he makes sure that whenever his opposition are talking on the internet, he will shut it off. So imagine you're an e-marketer in Venezuela. Then the opposition decides to talk every day, morning and afternoon. It means that every day in the morning and afternoon, there'll be no internet. How can your business thrive in such an environment? And the more recent one, Uganda. For 5 days, the internet was completely off. Total national blackout. If you were an e-marketer in such a context, you'll be doomed. Because those 5 days, you will not be able to do anything. You will not know your fate, and you will not be able to make any meaningful decision, because what do you do next? So these are typical examples of how internet governance as well as political issues in specific countries can be able to affect your activities as an electronic marketer. Okay. Now, lastly, we can talk about societal factors. And these societal factors mainly have to do with the people themselves, right? Everyone in society has an opinion. And generally, when the whole public has an opinion on an issue, we refer to it as public opinion. And when public opinion emerges about a specific brand, product, or service, it is very difficult to shake off whatever this opinion is and how it will affect the subsequent consumption of this product or service, right? So when we talk of public opinion and general attitude about an industry, brand, company, or that company's products and services, we are saying that in terms of electronic marketing, public opinion and general attitude over the internet can affect how you do business. Because if people online are not happy with your brand, they will not be shy to express it. And because of the avenues that customers have online to express and share their grievances, your company will always be put on blast. I can count how many tweets I have seen about EcoBank alone in the last 2 weeks. Several. At the same time too, if the consumer or the online audience feel that there are certain moral and ethical issues to do with your brand, maybe they believe you have violated some kind of moral code or code of ethics, it will affect your brand negatively. And the consequences of moral and ethical issues in relation to brands, where customers and users feel they have violated certain terms, has led to the trend of cancel culture, where we have seen various firms being bashed unabatedly online consistently, right? And customers withdrawing their support for these brands. And when they do so, they do not just withdraw their support, they also actively campaign and encourage other people to withdraw their support for the brand as well. Someone said, he said social media bullied Eddie's Pizza for them to change their name to Escape. But they are still using the name Eddie's Pizza, or am I wrong? They're still using the name Eddie's Pizza, right? They are slowly rebranding. Okay. But currently,
Madam, they are called Cheesy Pizza now.
They are called what?
Cheesy Pizza.
Cheesy Pizza. There you go.
Yeah.
So why were they asked to change the name from Eddie's Pizza? Did they do something wrong? Bad PR. Oh, okay. Between the owners. Okay. 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 That makes sense. That makes sense. All right. So that's another example, right? And the consumers will not fail to make their voices heard. And by their sheer numbers and the power of the internet to grant them reach, they'll be able to reach as many users online as they can to spread the word. right? We can see examples of this happening in the world where huge multinational and global brands have fallen prey to this trend of cancel culture. Gucci got into trouble for creating this funny, absurd outfit, which I don't even know why they came up with such a concept. And the black people in the US found it to be racist, given that Gucci is actually bought more by black people in the United States than even white people. In the end, they started a campaign to boycott Gucci. And it took a lot of effort on Gucci's part, including a public apology, as well as other philanthropic activities and separate events that they organized to be able to convince the people that they were remorseful for their actions and were not going to repeat it. So here we can see they say they deeply apologize for the offense caused by this heinous thing they call the wool balaclava jumper. I don't even know why they will go through the trouble, right? And because of the backlash, they had to pull the item from all their online platforms. They said, we can confirm the item has been immediately removed from the online store and all physical stores. So what started online has affected not just their activities online, but also their activities in the what? The brick and mortar sphere. They've pulled it off their online platform for sale, and they've also pulled it off. Yes, coolest monkey in the jungle. That's our next example. And what angered people the most after this Gucci situation, when H&M also came up with this coolest monkey in the jungle thing, was the fact that the same campaign included a white boy who was also wearing a sweater. But on his sweater, he had survival expert written on it. So why does the white boy have survival expert written on his shirt and the black boy has coolest monkey in the jungle written on his shirt? H&M dropped the ball on this one. And they faced the backlash to put. They nearly got cancelled. But ultimately, marketers are experts at what they do. With a bit of good PR, some remorse, and evidence that you are changing your ways, brands can always recover when bad PR happens. Because that is what we do. That is our job as marketers. Right? So H&M was also slammed for this racist ad campaign that they put together. Lawrence, sometimes it is not intentional. Some of these decisions are made unilaterally. Sometimes there's just one person in the organization who has ideas and just tells people to implement them. Sometimes too, it is a genuine mistake of a group of people who came together in a brainstorming meeting and decided, let's take our marketing campaign in this direction. And you know, marketing is all about trial and error. Sometimes in our creativity, sometimes we forget certain basic moral and ethical issues. That is why there's a new arm of marketing emerging, which is called ethical marketing, to help us to stay aware of some of the ethical and moral implications of some of the decisions that we take as marketers and some of the information and campaigns that we put out there, so that we can check ourselves, right? So like, there's no explanation for why they do these things. Because I kid you not, in a few weeks' time, we may see another scandal again, and we'll ask ourselves the question again, didn't they know better? And there are so many examples of this in the past to prove to us that it will happen again and again and again. Kobe Combs, in your hand, what's up? Please speak.
Yes, madam. In response to Lois's question, I think one of the trends that also was noticed was that in a lot of these high-end companies, they don't have a lot of minority people, like Black people and people of color, in their top positions. So when some of these things come up, white people usually don't understand how offensive some of these things are to Black people. And because there's no Black person in the room to point it out to them, they just go to market with it.
Yeah. But Kobe, sometimes, funny enough, you realize that there are Black people in the company, so. But their voice doesn't count.
Yeah, madam, yeah.
Their voice doesn't count.
They're also afraid.
Good.
They're afraid to
speak
on that something.
Yeah. So it's a myriad of factors. Virgil Abloh is known as one of the biggest Oreos ever. He's so out of touch with his Black side, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
right?
Like
So,
his inner circle is mostly white people.
exactly. You see, so, but Lois, there's no way we can tell these things will not happen in the future. They may happen again and again and again, right? So it's good we are learning about them so that when we have the opportunity to sit in the driving seat as marketers, we can make better informed decisions to avoid some of these things happening in the near future. Because you never know where you will be working in a few years' time. Any of you could be at Vogue or at Louis Vuitton or at Gucci or at H&M or at any of these huge marketing corporations in charge of a particular brand's portfolio, right? And with that, we've come to the end of today's session. Does anyone have anything they want to share? Any sentiments, any comments? The floor is open for anyone who has something to say before we finally sign off.